Anecdotes for success. Level up with truth, meaning, trade-offs, perspective.
Gonna hit record now.
Okay.
You guys haven't seen each other in a while.
It's been since the last podcast. I don't know when it was, but John, you look good. You got a good background.
Thanks,
you got the headset. You're killing it. You
I
sound
don't know
good.
about that.
I mean, I like
good. Yeah, it's interesting how much things can change with some. It's been a good year. I worked really hard this year, but it's exciting. I'm really happy where a bunch of things are, and it's exciting. So yeah, it's cool.
I'm glad to hear that.
Thanks,
there's nothing better than hearing I worked really hard and things are going great, right?
Yeah, and I hope more people can do that. Like I feel lucky, and I think I was thinking about that today. Like it's why we have to teach entrepreneurship to young people, just so building a business is such an asset, right? And there's so many ways to do it, and I'm a fan of investing, of course, but if you really think about it, the business builders understand cash flow and they do so well. So anyway, I know it's not what we're talking about tonight, but
no, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a minute.
There's no rules.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute though, because one of the things you're saying we got to teach the kids entrepreneurship, and I couldn't. I second, third, and
right
in 100th that statement.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think people hear that word and they get caught up in this idea that being an entrepreneur is trying to be Elon Musk and how can I build, how can I build SpaceX or how can I build Facebook or whatever. And when you and I and Paul, we all know that 99% of entrepreneurs are buying real estate and investing in other things, and they're not these genius creators. I'm not.
Right.
And
it's small business, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. So we encourage it as small business, and whether you're like shoveling snow or tennis lessons, all stuff I did, you learn the numbers, right? You get to get comfortable with the numbers. You can visualize numbers, and then you're off to the races. And then you learn what you're good or bad at too, and what you like or you don't like. It's a time to discover, right? To figure out what you kind of want to crank out, or not. So. Yeah.
No question about it.
I love what you've done, Matt. I love what you've done. I get it. I love how you kept rolling it up. That's awesome. And
yeah, thanks.
That's good stuff, man. Really good stuff.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. But it's like one of those things where I tell people I didn't like, create this something out of nothing. Like you said, I know the numbers, I study them, I get comfortable with them, which is a great way of saying it. I like how you say that's important. And then you can, get involved in a lot of things, but you don't have to be this creative genius. And I think far too many people think, well, I can't be an entrepreneur because I don't have a great idea, and you don't need one. Is all I'm saying.
You don't. Yeah. Literally all you need to do is be able to understand what profit looks like and where you can see opportunities. Really, that's it. Right. And it doesn't have to be complicated. And, when you're younger, you can do some sweat equity, right? Big deal. I mean, go work a crappy job and all of a sudden writing emails feels a lot better. Right.
No question about it. It's so. I know we were off topic there a little bit, but like Paul said, there's no such thing as off topic with us, and those types of things are super interesting to me, and I'm sure anyone listening. So
when we talk on the phone quite a bit. Well, I do between the both of you. I'm glad we've all merged tonight, but you should see what he's been teaching video wise and slide wise. I showed it to my students today with their 5-minute attention span because it was the last day of class. And John, it's the secret sauce, like you said.
Yeah, we got it.
The way he teaches financial literacy is not like anybody else. It's
different, and I learned from them, like they like their graphics, they like, hearing the language the right way. But anyway, it's fun, Paul. And just to see where it came from, I guess 3 years ago. Because I look at the textbook and I'm like, oh, the slides like pop at you. You tell the story, you get interaction. It's not as boring, which is what we wanted the whole time, right? We didn't want it to be a painful exercise. We didn't want it to be academic. So I think the slides and the Zoom gets it there.
Yeah,
You know,
kids, you don't need textbook. People don't want to learn by textbook. I'm
no,
not saying everybody, but kids.
right,
But
right.
you throw some zooms and some slides and some graphics and stories, and you
That's it.
don't mention the word retirement because an 18-year-old
That's
does not care about retirement.
right. It's their time frame is where am I going in the next 2 weeks? Who am I meeting up with? And God bless them. We were all there. Nothing wrong
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
that.
I want to see these slides and
Yeah, I will. I'd
not
be happy to show them
not
to
this
you.
moment, but
Yeah,
in the near future,
yeah.
I'd like to see what you
Just
got.
yeah. I mean, I think we're onto something. I don't know if it's intellectual property, but it's pretty damn close. I think that's how. I
That's
don't know, Paul.
exciting.
It's a
I'll
it's a
let
different
you
way.
take
Yeah,
a peek. I'll let you take a peek of mine because I
yeah.
mean, with your permission, John,
That's
Matt's
fine.
not getting
Yeah,
he's
Matt's
not
cool.
getting into
Matt's the
this
man.
business.
I'm not worried. It's all
No,
good.
I'm just fascinated. The only thing I'd ever want to, the reason I'd want to get involved is, would be to help because I'm so
Yeah.
passionate about
Well,
what you guys.
all right,
You know,
Matt. Let me ask you a question real quick, and I know what we're here for, but let's just see if we've covered everything. If you were going to teach it, what would be like the 5 or 10 concept you would want to teach to somebody across business, economics, asset classes, risk, and personal finance? Like, what are the big ones? And let's see if
sure,
we must stay.
I'd be looking at the understanding of debt, good debt and bad debt.
Did it? Did it?
Different
Covered
types
it?
of debt.
Covered it?
I'd be looking at spending less than I make. I
Yep.
want the
Covered
word
that.
I want to use
Verse
the word
budgets.
saving,
Yeah. Well,
but then
the way I'm with you, the way I teach it is make enough money so you can live on 450 your money, always save 20%.
okay, yep, yep.
Same thing, right?
You,
Okay.
I'd be looking at taking that money and and then now I'm investing it into something and
Okay. Yep.
that's a wonderful conversation and
Perfect.
depends on.
Perfect.
I'd be looking at using my additional time to drive additional revenue.
Yep.
I'd
Okay.
be looking at if we're talking young people or young
Yep.
people coming up. I'd also be looking at making sure that my expenses
Yep.
were low. Where I'd really be interested in keeping my expenses down.
Okay. Yep.
What I miss?
Habits.
Yeah, habits is absolutely discipline and habits, and they're kind
Yep.
of the same thing in many
They
ways.
are. They
I'd
are.
be looking because discipline is day in day out, right? It's
Yep.
which is habit. So
Yeah. So let me tell you some of the stuff we cover real quick, if Paul, if you don't mind. We
Yeah.
covered it. We covered instant gratification, consumerism. We talked about durations. We did gross and net profits. We did every asset class. We explained lending through fixed income credit ratings. Did FICO. Then we
Good.
relayed that back to FICO. I'm proud to say that I actually taught taxes. I taught
Great.
property taxes, consumption taxes, and payroll withholding.
Great.
I think I'm one of the first people to ever teach that. They asked me to do it. I did it. Um, Teach economics so they actually understand inflation, deflation, business cycles, which I'm proud to do. 3 years ago, nobody cared about it, right, Paul? And we're back.
Yeah.
Like 3 years ago, why are you even doing this? But from history, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much that type of stuff.
I love it. I love
Yeah,
it. Every
yeah, it's
one of
pretty
those
cool. All the
is so
algebra,
important.
we did active, passive,
Okay.
FICO, taught them how to spend money efficiently. Guidelines for spending, managing credit. Yeah, you name. We did personal savings rate. We did the FIRE movement. We did the 4% rule. We did Rule 72. So I think we hit. This was the first time I did it, but I think we hit 90% of the target. I'm pretty sure. So anyway,
Yeah, that sounds like that's
because
fantastic.
the way I look at it is like, what areas or adults can we fix it in high school so they can do things? You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So
Go back and fix it early.
Yeah. So our personal finance section isn't so much about the math. I think, to me, if you can manage the positive cash flow consistently and invest 20%, you're done. That's all it takes. But it's hard to do. I get it. But I told students, I'm like, this is my ask. Cash flow before investing, uninterrupted growth in your investing, get your cash flow right, which I know you get. I know the real estate people get it. But once your cash flow starts flowing and you keep increasing it, you're off to the races, right?
Off to the races.
By the way, we covered options and futures too.
Oh wow.
Just as products.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think we went pretty deep.
You did.
And it wasn't traditional financial literacy. It was like financial literacy for the world, so you could actually be successful with business and finance and running money, right?
Got it.
Right? Yeah.
I got to give my 2 cents now with the class
Ah.
today. Their favorite slide. Well, they liked a lot of them. I told you, but their favorite one was where you showed somebody from 25 to 34 investing 5,000 a year and then stopping,
Yep.
never investing
crazy.
another penny.
And then just let it roll.
And then the same person, Matt, starting at 35, investing $5,000 a year for 30 years and not catching the first person.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I told the kids, so what does the average person do from 18 to 25? Nothing except student loans, spending, and debt. And now they're off to the races in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I have students
crazy.
fighting with their parents about college right now. It's an amazing conversation. And I don't apologize. Why do they have to go? Like, there's other ways, community college. I won't get off on my
right.
But hey, that was a good podcast.
That's fun.
You can save that one for later. We can start over and do the original one if you want. I don't care.
Yeah, no, I think we'll keep it.
Oh, okay.
We gotta keep that.
Matt and I are getting better at whatever we talk about, we talk about. And
listen, I got ADD. I don't apologize for it. I'll go all over the place. Paul knows. Like, if you don't steer me, sometimes I'm.
Yeah, sometimes he calls me and the phone's just like on my table when I'm out doing stuff.
Well, I don't know about you, Matt. But I learned if you're going to manage it, you have to have the right people in the right spots to keep you going the right way on projects and stuff. That's how I do it, at least.
I had a meeting with one of my employees today, and that was a big part of what we were talking about. And you know, saying, hey, look, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I'm not the smartest person in the room.
Right.
That's by design. I need people who can do things I can't. And there's plenty of things I can't. So, you know, I need those people. And so I'm with you on that.
Yeah, man.
John, you're episode 77.
Awesome. It's a great number. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great number.
You're the Ray Bork episode. We do things different after we done. Like, I have no idea what the title or the bio is going to be. I figure it out.
It's great, man. It's great.
So
I love it. It's like it's free flowing, which is nice. I respect that. I like that.
We get a lot. You know, surprisingly, we get more feedback than you think now about these episodes. You know,
don't say surprisingly, Paul. It makes it sound like it's no surprise at all.
You know, I get it. I mean, I feel like, I don't know. Podcasts are fun. I get them now. I see it. You get the person. You guys are doing a great job. The vibe's awesome. Like, you guys are so chill now from when we started. Like, it's awesome. Yeah, so you guys are good. And I do know you guys. So I feel like we're kind of just sitting at a fire having a drink and what's up.
That's exactly
that's what we want.
That's the best.
There's no better compliment than being invited over to your neighbor's house. They're lighting a fire. You know, maybe they're making you pizza. What are you drinking? Scotch, whatever you need, and just hang out. I mean, that's the greatest thing. I'm doing that on Wednesday. Can't wait.
Oh man, that's awesome.
See you in 2 weeks, Paul. See you in 2 weeks, right? 3 weeks.
We're moving Allie out, and I get to hang with John for a night or two.
Are you coming through here?
No,
he's coming my way.
Move Allie to Chicago.
Paul, I get you. You're moving Allie out that way, and I get it. I get it.
Middle America.
Yeah. That's outstanding. That'll be great. Good for you guys.
John, maybe you can help me quick. She's had a couple people tell her she has a Middle America personality, and she doesn't know what that means.
Well, you guys are upstate New York. So I've thought about this. I personally favor the Carolinas. You can see the Smoky Mountains in the back. I love down that area. I love that area. So there's different areas of the country. They all have their dialects, right? But ultimately, if you're not within 3 hours of a major city, you're country. There's different versions of country. There's South country, there's mountain country, there's Texas country. But, if you're not, I was Jersey and I was kind of country compared to the people in Manhattan. So, yeah, she'll get on fine. And you know what? And East Coast and the Midwest, because of the Big Ten, they all mix up. She's going to love Chicago, by the way. It's an awesome city. Awesome city.
All right. Well, that was the 18-minute prequel to what we're going to talk about now. We brought John on because, as promised, John's role tonight is to talk Matt into buying Bitcoin. Am I right?
Okay.
Am I too direct?
Wait, let's back up. I would go so far as say talk Matt into buying any crypto, right?
Okay.
I mean, it wouldn't just have to be Bitcoin. It could be, but and this was a request of mine. right, Paul? That
Yep.
because John, I'm fascinated by it, and
It is fascinating. It's fascinating.
I cannot form a strong opinion on it
Okay.
that I can keep for any length of time. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I was thinking about it the one day. I was talking to Paul the next day, and I'm like, Paul, we gotta talk about this, and
Yeah.
I wanna. And I'm thinking, if I'm thinking it, who else is thinking it, right? Tons of people are thinking it. Like, and there's so many interesting arguments for it, and there's certainly arguments against it, like
Sure.
anything, and
Sure.
and some of those kinds of things. So I just thought it'd be fun to have a conversation with the most knowledgeable person I could get my hands on, as far as I know, which is
Fair.
because
It's
I've
fine.
heard you talk about a handful.
Oh, no,
of
no,
times.
no. Listen, look,
He's good.
I studied economics in college. I covered macro hedge funds. I absolutely understand this stuff. So we'll get into it for sure. I would just ask you, you know, this is not a dig or anything, but like, have you studied the history of finance over like the last 200 years? Are you kind of aware of some of those things? Because that's where I like to start. I like to start with history. I like to get into the adoption. I have different forms of case use. Like it's already proven valuable. Are you aware of like Bretton Woods? Do you understand
Yep.
like the gold standard? Of
Yep.
course. Okay,
Yep.
great. Okay,
Yep.
cool.
That
So
stuff I consider somewhat basic, like because I read a lot. I'm super interested in economics and history and
good,
those
good.
kinds of things. But
Good.
I'm sure there's plenty I don't know.
And
Plenty.
I would argue there's plenty I don't know either. Like I probably have my like opinions on some things, but I will just say I've always studied the history of the markets, and I love history in general because I think people tend to complicate human nature, and there will always be new technology, but deep down we're all the same type. We're the same people, same wants, same needs. We all want to be the biggest, the brightest, the wealthiest, the most beautiful. Come on, right? So
It's never
that
been
is
any different and never will be, right? And
sure.
why do we refuse to learn from it, right? It's
Right.
mind-boggling.
You can kind of profit off of it. Actually, if you're going to be an investor, you should probably understand history so you can see the things that are favorable and not favorable and where we're going. And we're going digital, by the way. We're going digital. Like I can see a case use where there's these things called the CBDCs, which are the like cryptos of the governments, and they're government controlled. So that's another conversation we probably have to have too.
Yeah.
Paul, am I getting better? Like I'm learning how to like not
Yes.
over talk, ask good questions. Like I've been well trained. I've been pretty well trained.
No, but the government crypto is one. It's
complicated.
Exactly.
It's worth the conversation because it comes down to adoption ultimately, and who chooses to adopt. And quite honestly, money has shifted. If we just go back to the first financial asset of them all, just let's call it money, right? You needed something in between the buyer and the seller. Bartering took too long. Let's just go to the old school days, okay?
Yep.
So, originally it was commodities. There's something to, when the family marries off the bride, in old cultures, you put a cow in there, goat, a cow. I mean,
yeah,
that's the payment, right? I mean, that's the payment.
I know.
I'm just saying, right? So, it goes from commodities, it gets to coin, it gets to paper. We are really physical, we're really digital now. There is paper, but the young kids don't use paper, right? Everybody's Venmoing, everybody's, all right. So we're kind of there, but we're still under government control.
Right.
We're under government control. And the first thing with Bitcoin is it's an exit to the fiat system. That's number one. I think it's very important.
Okay.
Now, the libertarians were originally behind it when it came out. I think it came out in I'm pretty sure it came out in 2009. Now, the reason I know it came out in 2009 is because my twins were born in 2008 and my youngest was born in 2010. And I'm pretty sure it was right in the middle, the first Genesis block of Bitcoin, right? And it was an absolute joke by the time. And I was in the markets. I was an economics person. And I was like, okay, what the hell is this thing? But what's funny was, you understand how money works. For money to work, there's like a whole set. I'd have to look it up, but there's a bunch of rules. But let's start with the basic, most element thing. Two people have to agree on its value, right?
Yep.
Has to agree on its value. Maybe it's backed, maybe it's not, but it's worth something that people see it. So that's adoption in a way, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the views now, the whole crypto space is dependent on Bitcoin, period. That's the godfather. Like the rest is complete. You know, you need Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin funds the ecosystem basically. When Bitcoin, like if Bitcoin goes to 50, that funds the L1s. And, you know, you can make an argument over tokens. You know, tokens probably should be a security, right? They're, you know, just to protect I think the SEC has done a very bad job on regulating crypto, purposely being vague. I understand why. I'm not stupid, Matt. I understand traditional's role in knocking, you know, it around, but ultimately Bitcoin has value. I would argue the L1s, which are like the highways, the infrastructure, the Ethereum, some of these other coins, you know, they're how you build the blockchain. The blockchain is real. The question is, corporations could build their own blockchains. They don't need to use crypto blockchains. And
Sure.
ultimately, a corporation's blockchain, they don't want it to be public, right? Because there's edge. Like Costco doesn't want their operations to be public to the whole country.
Of course not.
So for corporations, it has to be a closed blockchain. But a public blockchain is great because you're old enough to remember, and Paul too. God, I'm happy I'm not the oldest, Paul. But anyway, there was a time where to go from a country in Europe on the big shipping containers to pay somebody in another country, we were talking like a 6% VIG between the currencies. Remember those days?
Yep.
Well, those are gone. That was like, call that 20 years ago. They're gone because of electric payments, and they're certainly gone because of crypto. Crypto settles in real time, by the way. The blockchain settles in real time. The blockchain is a public ledger. There's no hiding in the blockchain. Everybody can see everybody's transactions, by the way. So there's good. So that's a good thing, right? Because I would argue in 2023, there's not enough trust. We actually need trustless money, right? So if you really think, I know we're going to keep going, but I really want to build the case for it because that's what you asked, right?
Yeah.
So
correct.
ultimately, you know, we don't, you know, you have your allies, but they're not the same allies we had 50 years ago. Maybe the US is selfish. Maybe US, I mean, in my opinion, has expensive money, if we're being honest, right? We charge a lot for it. We want your resources and you better buy our military equipment, right? Like our money is expensive, right? We're not like these wonderful people to the rest of the world. So people get sick of it, right? So in 08, the rest of the countries want to get off the dollar because we replaced the global oil settlement for the gold. And that's why we are the world's largest debtor nation, because everything sells in dollars and we get to borrow from that. So we're getting free loans on that money, by the way. So it's only a matter of time. You know, things do change. There was a time when Great Britain was a great empire. So I hope we're not there, but I can kind of see that we are, right? The role of the dollar. So, you know, currency, if we're really thinking about currency, trades in pairs, right? So the US dollar doesn't just go up on its own. The US dollar goes up against the euro, you know, it goes down versus the pound, you know, maybe goes up versus the yen. It fluctuates, right? We have a Dixie index where we follow everything. Fine. I know I'm going over the place, but stay with me. So Bitcoin is a currency not owned by a country. So from the macro and the economic, that's a very important thing. It cannot be manipulated. It cannot be recoded. It's, you know, once it hits, it hits. You can't change history. You can't manipulate it. So at the end of the day, whether we're foes or friends, we can actually trust something that happened on that network and we can all see it. Don't we kind of need that in 2023?
I'd argue we should, that would always be valuable. Sure.
Right. Like, I think we really need that, right? So then the other thing why Bitcoin should be is, you know, we've been on untied fiat currency for the last 50 years. So,
right.
You know, there's nothing stopping us from printing our way out. And by the way we handled 08, the rest of the world was not very happy, by the way. We had a duty in the 80s with, was it Paul Volcker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Volcker maybe, or whatever, you know? Okay.
No, I think, yeah.
Volcker,
I know who you mean. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So we actually ended up raising interest rates very high because we understood that in this arrangement, we were responsible for assisting the global economy, right? And we had to do what was necessary to keep the global economy running. Okay. And that was back in the 80s. That's why I think you had interest rates in the 15s, mortgages in the 15%, crazy stuff. But we did the right thing for everybody else. We were team players. In 08, I understand it, but we chose the US over everybody else, and we printed a lot of money. that caused a lot of destruction, a lot of inflation to the rest of the world, right? Fine. So there is something to being able to own a non-government currency. There's a value there. There's definitely an economic value to that where you can't manipulate it. I would argue what I wanted to see happen, which may or may not happen, it may take longer. I'm very disappointed in the players and how they've kind of not regulated or not provided clarity. I think they are, by the way, regulating crypto, by the way. I'm pretty sure their intention is to wipe out the current players, even though Coinbase did everything right, by the way. Coinbase was former New York Stock Exchange guys that knew the business that kept asking for clarity in how they want to regulate this. And they were given the okay to go public, by the way. So it's very ironic, right? So they're kind of blowing everything up. And then they're going to have new people coming. You see it all the time. It happened in the car industry back in the early 1900s. And then, then we have the rules in place and then you rebuild. I would argue that that was the foolish way to go. It would have been better organic, and they could have brought it into the system, and people had so much opportunity. So that just got screwed up. Whatever, I get it. No one person controls Bitcoin because of the system. You have all these nodes, like everybody has the blockchain. Like you can't just steal one blockchain, rewrite it. Like other people kind of have it. So it's beautiful that the machines do it. And I think the younger people trust the machines. The younger people don't care about stocks. And because of all those reasons, I think Bitcoin needs to be the collateral. And all it would take would, the government scales to adopt it alongside gold. And that's really the key to the whole thing. Or are we going to see, the macro hedge funds, they play in cryptos. That's fine. But are we going to see the life insurance companies go? Did the US government already own it? Like if we're anti-Bitcoin as US, it doesn't matter. It's still going where it goes. We're just not choosing to embrace that technology. So I see a case for Bitcoin. I think it's going to strengthen the traditional finance system. For all these refugees, by the way, what happened in Canada, what happened in Ukraine, they took their wealth with crypto, by the way. As a Jewish person, I can respect that, right? I mean, you weren't going to carry gold bars with you or jewelry that was going to be taken, right? But you don't know what's on that damn zip drive, do you? So it's much more portable. There's a lot of benefits to this stuff, and I actually feel bad for the Russian citizens too, because Putin does whatever he wants, but they did not choose this thing in Ukraine. Maybe they did, maybe they, I don't know. I know it's screwed up.
Of course.
My point is, but they were kicked off of the traditional system. That's why Russia was making the deals with China and the deals with Saudi Arabia, because they got their oil from somewhere else and they're going to fix it. And they're probably going to adopt crypto because they have to. Latin America already adopted crypto. So we're already on our way, but it's going to be Bitcoin. If Bitcoin fails, the rest have no chance. So it really is about Bitcoin. It's really about Bitcoin. Stable coins were a threat to the US dollar. The governments are going to make their own version of Bitcoin. They're going to call it CBDCs, and it's going to be controlled by the government, and that's what's going to take physical into digital. I think that's an on-ramp to Bitcoin, right? Because once they have the CBDC, they can say, well, you know what, in our confiscation of drugs and illegal materials, we've acquired all this Bitcoin. You know what I mean? And that's the other thing too. You probably know this, but there was a time in Silk Road, 90% of the internet is dark, by the way. So are we really going to pretend that every single currency, every single form of money has always been used for bad things? That's nothing new. So this whole, it's for drug traffickers. I think we all remember the drug traffickers in the 80s or 90s moving, briefcases of cash, don't we? So, I mean, come on, like we've seen that. So that's kind of where I stand. I think it's important. I think it's necessary. I don't need to go on, but I can keep arguing it. But there's been, use cases. There is an element of freedom in there. It is portable, but that's at the personal level. For it to really go where it needs to go, it has to be the states using it. And you should use Bitcoin as collateral. It clears right away. We're still on T+2 for stocks. We're still on T+1 for mutual funds. Why? We're in 2023. A blockchain settles right away. Right away, like
let me
10 minutes.
Let me ask a few questions about it. So, is Bitcoin? Is it fixed? Is there a fixed number of Bitcoins?
All right. This is there really is. So there's supposed to be 21 million, right?
Okay.
But based on what I know and just where the technology was, I think the real number is 15 million. But as you and I know, there's always going to be shenanigans. There's always going to be paper Bitcoin. There's always going to be extra versions of it. And I think that's what we saw with SVB and the pre-Luna stuff, where people were, maybe allocating more Bitcoin than they should with extra tickets and stuff. Until you regulate it, you're not going to be able to tighten up that 21 million number.
Right, but I
Right?
find that interesting. Why, if it's only 21 million or 15, it doesn't matter. Pick a number. I don't care but if it's just a certain number, is it not, where's the growth come from? Can you grow with it? I mean, how do you
Okay.
fiat currency,
So-
like you said, we can just keep printing it, or we can create wealth by going to I can build a new home and borrow against that. Now I've created wealth, et cetera, et cetera. But
Yeah, that's
you
fair.
see where I'm going with this? You see
So
my question?
that is a challenge. That is a challenge. I think there's macroeconomic value to Bitcoin, but the issue is people are so caught up in traditional finance and revenue and profits that maybe it's going to take new metrics. Maybe it's going to be more like the TV and the amount of volume that passes through. I don't know, but I think there's economic value. I think there is. And so they have a denomination of Bitcoin called Satoshis. I mean, I haven't looked at the stuff. You guys are getting this, Satoshis per Bitcoin. So it does go one level underneath. I'm not sure. Let me look it up. I think it's okay. So 100,000 Satoshis equal one Bitcoin. So it is divisible, just like the dollar to the penny stuff. Look, let me ask
Isn't that the guy who invented it?
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting story too. I am of the opinion it was not a man. I am of the opinion it was a group, but I'm going to stop right there. I don't want to say anything else because I don't think I should. But I'm pretty sure it was a group of very smart people that kind of saw where things are going and wanted to create. It's programmable money. It's really impressive. It is where it's a smarter version of money. Like, don't you love a better iteration? Done the right way. Like, is inflation normal? Like, shouldn't we all be pegged to a common standard of currency? Otherwise, everybody just cheats. Like, everybody's been cheating for 50 years. That's all we're doing. Right. And we're using our military to be like, too bad. Screw you. Oh, you don't like it? Okay, here we go.
Well, that's about all we got, right? I mean, when it comes down to it.
Right.
Yeah.
So
if it's are people using Bitcoin in particular more as a spending tool or an investment?
Store wealth investment now. Yes.
So doesn't that create that's one of the things here's my thing. If I were going to invest in it, if I'm going to invest in Coca-Cola, people buy Coca-Cola. If I'm going to invest in Sony, people buy TVs or whatever it might be.
I hear you. I
have a grapple with that. You know what I'm saying?
I understand, because you're fixated. Listen, we're fixated on what we grew up with and what we understand, right? Maybe there's a new dynamic.
Yep.
Right. This is clearly new technology. This is a new paradigm. It's very hard for some people to see it, and I'm not judging anybody, but when you look at it through the bigger lens of the history of money and whatnot, it absolutely makes sense. I mean, let me ask you a question. What if the governments, and I'm not anti-government, by the way. I mean, I'm not thrilled by government, if we're being honest. Like I told Paul the other day, I'm starting to think these industrialists were pretty bad people. The people that built America, looking at some of these names and what they've done, right? You guys got to help me. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
You said you're going to ask
a question.
You're going to ask me a question.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Well, let me. Yeah.
Back on the train of thought.
Yes. Thank you.
You're absolutely right. Like how I'm looking at it, I'm having a difficult time tweaking my lens to change my worldview of money.
Right.
So that's you're definitely right about that, which is why I wanted to hear your arguments and such. I'm having a challenge.
So my first taste of technology was the algorithms on Wall Street. Before the algorithms, it was a great business. People were getting paid. That, technology takes out the intermediation, basically, right? Does that make sense? It takes out the layers, right?
Yep.
And by the way, Paul, AI is going to completely change the education system. I'm convinced. Convinced, by the way. All right. So my question is this. Have you looked at the total global debt outstanding right now in the financial system, the global financial system?
I have not.
Maybe I'll Google it for you guys. I'm
Yeah.
on two monitors right now. This is pretty cool. So I can be like your Google guy.
You're right, Paul. There's our fact checker.
There's our fact checker.
Listen, with all due respect, I'm not your fact checker. I want my own fact checker. Okay. All right. So total global debt outstanding. I mean, I'll just ballpark it before I run it. I would say we're easily over 200 trillion. Okay.
Okay.
305 trillion.
Okay. So
how do you pay that back, Matt?
So all sorts of people tell me that's no big deal. I'm not sure about that. Me either. I'm just saying. There's a lot of people who would say, well, the combined GDP of the global. What's global GDP? Can you Google that? Is that
sure
global GDP? I'm just curious what that is.
It's my pleasure.
This is great.
I can't believe when did the world become so hard to figure out what how to run? Anyway, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure for the conversation.
Looking forward, I am going to start having a second monitor, Matt.
Yeah,
this is the best. I'm cooking right. I am cooking right now. I got you guys on the left. All right.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Total GDP for 2024 is expected. Gross domestic product at current prices from 1985 to 28 in billion, 111 billion in 2024. I think we have a problem.
It's going to be 111 trillion.
I'm not sure. Let me pull that up again. You think it's trillions?
Well, because if
all right, hang on. I got Statista. They're very good. They're real economics people. They're the real ones.
United States GDP's got to be 20-some trillion.
Yeah.
All right, hang on.
Yeah.
All right. So hang on. You're right.
Just under our debt.
Hang on. You're right. So in 2020, global GDP was at 86 trillion. So maybe it's at 100 trillion.
So it's only a third. It's only a third of what the global debt is.
Yeah, I just don't think it's really that good. So let me. All right.
I don't either, John. I think it's bad.
It's pretty bad. But so there is a case use. There is an economic value, but you cannot think in the terms of profit. It's a different model than shareholders and revenue and everything else.
Yes.
I think there is an economic value for Bitcoin as a commodity, right? As a digital dollar, as a digital gold. I think it is probably the best collateral you could ever find between countries because it takes no trust. And I think we need to implement it to become the backbone of our traditional system. I think if we don't do this, we really don't have a chance. So I think the world actually needs it. And I think people understood that. And whoever brought it up maybe saw the long-term play in it. Now, they seem okay with Bitcoin. I think the L1s, the Ethereums, the Cardanos, I think they have a role too.
Why do you call them L1s? What does that mean? I'm not familiar with that.
So Bitcoin is not meant to be scalable, basically. Like people have scaled on top of it for payments and stuff, but that was not the original design. The original design was very simplistic to make it a digital gold and make it a fiat alternative. That's why the libertarians were all on board it early in 09, okay? But the L1s, like Ethereum, they're meant to be scaled. And you can build stuff on them. You're running the new internet, theoretically. You're running... I haven't looked at this stuff in a while, by the way, so I'm a little out of it. But you're building code. You're writing code on the blockchain. You're putting games on there. You have NFTs, which in the current form are, I own them, whatever. But I wanted to see what it would look like. But it's really pictures maybe. But there is a case use for NFTs where you can carry your personal information and you would have the code. And you could carry all your health records, all your deeds, all that stuff. So there's value in that. It's just I don't like the current iteration. It's a bit soft. Like there's a lot more utility that could be added to it, right? Because it's unique. So there's something to the effect of do the people have the rights to have their own information on their own hands, right? or there's something to that possibly, I would think, right? So there's value there, maybe in the NFTs. It's just Bitcoin. I can see some L1s, but some of the other stuff is pure garbage. I think there's 20,000 cryptos, probably 25,000 now, including everything. And I always said, Paul, a lot of it's bullshit. I said it straight up. I'm looking for 50 good ones at most. Maybe I find 10, maybe I find 20. I think I found one that's pretty damn good, by the way. We'll see. It's not Bitcoin, but it's similar to Bitcoin and the L1s, but it's not, so I also waited on the stocks, by the way. I was buying the crypto before I bought the stocks. And I didn't want to buy both. I wanted to be involved with the crypto in case it went faster. It's clearly been slowed down, but I don't think that's going to matter because adoption is still going to happen. Maybe not as much in the US, but there's plenty of other countries. But it's really interesting. So I don't know if I convinced you, but that was pretty much the entire argument for it. I would be open. I would be open to it. I'd be open to that.
I am open to it. I'm absolutely open to it.
Right.
That's why I wanted to bring it up. I didn't want to bring it up or have you talk about it so I could just crap on it.
No, it's fine.
Because I wanted an education, and
in
which thank you for providing. And
sure.
I think the vast majority of people know very little about it. They hear it. They know it's out there, but they don't really know what it means. And frankly, it's like anything. People are afraid to ask, right? They don't want to look stupid. They don't want to look uneducated. Whereas I'm more than happy to hit the record button and show how stupid I am. But
so am I.
Do it weekly, right, Paul?
Yeah.
But the biggest hurdle I see with it, and you've mentioned it a couple times, is if the government. And you talk about them creating their own, and you. It sounds like you think they'll coexist to some degree, because I just can't see the government ever giving up control of it. They don't want to give up control of anything. So that's always been my biggest concern.
They don't, of course, but the genie's out. Listen, in my opinion, the genie's out of the bag or whatever it was in with regards to Bitcoin. It's already established. It's already on the computers. I don't think a government can fully stop it. I think they can slow it down if they want. They can scare people, but at the end of the day, maybe Bitcoin is the only thing. What mechanism do we have in place for countries if they have bad behavior? We don't have it. And I hope it's not war. That's terrible to think that war is the only option, right? So, I mean, so the bigger issue for U.S. investors right now, and if the dollar is going to lose a third of its value, it probably doesn't matter if you don't leave the country, right? But for the first time in a long time, the average U.S. investor is going to have to start looking at foreign stocks, and they have to start looking at commodities, right? And if you're in a deflationary phase, it doesn't really matter. Real estate. We have a huge commercial real estate issue right now. You guys know, right? Huge, tremendous, right? And people aren't going back to the office, and quite honestly, I go in once a week, but I'm not thrilled to go in once a week. I love being at home. I love working at home. That's fine. So people are going to have to start looking at commodities. There should be more of an appetite for crypto. The younger people don't care about stocks or crypto. They just want to see something go up, right? And, price is the ultimate meme, by the way. I still think, there were people at the end of 21 that thought Bitcoin could get to 10 million. Now, Paul, you remember, I never said that. I never said that. I said 500,000 was possible. And
I listened to a lot of
convos
where people swore by that.
Yeah, they swore by that. But I still think we're in the early innings. If I was a young person, I would be extremely comfortable. And this is just me, like I'm biased, but like I would love to see, have a sliver, even 20% as Bitcoin. I think it's actually going to work out. Some Bitcoin, some NASDAQ, some S&P, and go live your life, man. Like it's the returns have been amazing, from where it was. It's probably gonna, I call it 25 right now. It's gonna 10x from here. I just don't know how long it's gonna take, right? And I understand what you're saying, Matt. It's hard to value it. It's hard to model it because of traditional, but at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. Amazon was like that. Tesla's like that. You have these cults. You have these people that believe in the promise and they know where it's going. Maybe they know stuff you don't know, right?
Oh,
and
I'm sure there's plenty of people who know stuff I don't know.
Right. And they're visionaries and they see it. So this is like a visionary thing. This is something, you go down the rabbit hole and you see it and you You see the case uses for it, and there's a lot of the smartest people I know are in crypto. I can't say that they're either in options or crypto or real estate, basically.
Mhm.
A
So,
lot of options, a lot of options. I'll tell you. I'll tell you that.
so where does someone that's never bought Bitcoin go buy Bitcoin?
Good question.
That is a great question. I was using Coinbase, by the way. I mean, Coinbase was like the most reputable one.
That's
You
what I
know,
have.
I
Yeah.
mean, you're right. I put you in Coinbase, didn't I, Paul?
Yep. Yep.
I mean, you're probably not up on what you did.
I haven't looked. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's
Yeah,
there, right?
yeah. I mean, you're in it. I would be happy. Like if I could get my kids a full Bitcoin, I think they'd be all set. Like I think it's gonna, you know, it's hard to argue because I can't argue your framing on it, right?
Yeah, yeah, and again,
Right?
and I'm not here with my heels dug and
Sure,
saying
sure.
don't do
Right,
it. It's not. I'm just like you kind of made a really good, at least for me, what you were saying. It's like I'm having a difficult time tweaking my
right,
frame, right?
right,
To
right,
to look at something that's just so different and new and seeing it in a value situation versus something that I can put my hands on, right? Or consume or whatever the case may be. And so
right.
it's a different way of looking at something and something I haven't had to do before. Therefore, maybe I don't have the tools yet because I'm not educated enough in it to really look at it in the
I
right framework.
I wouldn't say that because I think you're much smarter than that. It's just a supply and demand thing, and as many things are, like there is such a thing as a buyer strike. If what Paul's saying, and there is something to it, there is less demand for college, right? Like we grew up on ramen noodles. These kids are eating steak every night. Of course, it's 80 grand a year. I
Right.
mean, come on. Like, I mean, who says that's college, right? I mean, part of the struggle was the best part of college.
It sure was.
25-cent pitchers on a Tuesday night. That was hilarious, right? I mean,
With a third
you're
of foam in it.
yeah, you're never gonna, sorry, you're never gonna have that. So I don't know. It's interesting. I can see it. If we go digital, by the way, I've told Paul this, and I haven't heard many people say about it, but this is like my mind. I can, my dad was a buyer and he taught me business, and I can really I think you can make a lot of money going even just 5 years out. You can make a lot of money. People aren't willing to try to think 5 years out, let alone 10 years out. That's a long time. I feel old now, but I know how long 10 years is. I know how long 5 years is. Um, it's interesting. It really is because I think people want money that's not associated to government, and they want to feel like they have control of their freedom, right? And traditional doesn't give you that. Let alone the fiat isn't built on the best base. The banking system's not built on the best base, and people are pulling a lot of money out of banks, from what I'm hearing. And where's it going?
Yeah, where is it going? Right.
Right?
Where do you put it? You put it into real estate, like you said. You put it, in some sort of hard asset. I
I
don't know.
mean,
It's a good
the only
question.
the, the only thing I know is if you're trying to embezzle money, you put it in art. That's all I know. The rest I don't know. That's clearly the art world to me. I know that sounds horrible, but I really think that's what art is for. I can't see why something's worth 100 million. I just can't see it. I know I'm an athlete, but we're just being honest, right?
It's true.
I don't own any art either. I don't own any art, so
Right. I
I
mean,
have
I
no idea about
appreciate the music art. I just don't appreciate, and that's on me, right? That's on me. I'm not cultured enough, I guess. You know.
So at the end of the day, uh, it would help build trust between countries, right?
Yes.
And the blockchain, which isn't going away,
Not going away.
in whatever aspect it's utilized, it could give people a lot of freedom to have a lot of information at their fingertips wherever they
So
live.
yeah, I mean, it is an alternative payment system. It's proven that. It's proven that's in Ukraine, Russia, even in Canada when they were trying to freeze the trucker money. So it is an alternative payment rail already. It's already set up, by the way. So there's always going to be a reason for that. Every time the global, the leaders like the G7 or whatever the number is now, every time they make a mistake, Bitcoin rallies. Gold hasn't taken off. I mean, if gold was, I think Bitcoin's been suppressing the value of gold. I mean, with everything going on, I would have thought gold spot would be above 2,000. It
I
is
don't,
at one. It's 1,967, give or take. I mean, is the
I don't,
macro
s-
that great right now? I mean, I don't
I
understand.
don't
I
see
would.
the old celebrities on TV selling gold certificates
Oh
anymore.
yeah. Who used to do
Right.
that? Telly Savalas or somebody?
Yeah, I don't
And
know. William Shatner.
I'll go one step further. I don't like the argument for physical gold or physical metals. If it comes to that, you want bullets and mortar.
Right, right,
I
right,
mean,
right.
I
I
don't
say the
understand that
same thing.
either.
I go, if you're counting on gold and silver, you need to have guns
Yeah.
and ammunition
Yeah.
and water and protection, you know?
For
And
real.
I'm
So I actually, if we go completely digital, I could see a underground of existing US dollars that trade at $30 premium that are off the system. I could
when
see that.
when you say entirely digital, do you mean
You can't
credit
get
card?
cash. You
No,
can't get
no cash.
cash. You can't get
Right. Okay.
cash.
I just
Fully
want
cashless.
I just
But
want to make
but
sure.
knowing Americans and knowing how we've operated, there's going to be a cash market somewhere. And shouldn't that cash market trade as a premium to the
It would
digital?
have to. It would
I
have
mean,
to. It's got risk involved with it, right?
sure.
More risk. More risk. It
Yeah.
already has risk. It has more
So
risk.
But
I should start hoarding dollars.
I don't know. It's an interesting thought, at least. You got to be open
Yeah,
to it, right? I mean,
might get more out of the bank long term, more than at a bank if it's just in my house
I
and
can you tell me how the banks are paying so low on the savings rate? How is that criminally allowed? I don't
I,
understand how that's even possible.
I talk about it with my classes all the time.
I just don't.
And we're just like, hey, open a savings account, learn to build some wealth. No, you're
I mean,
not.
the brokerages are killing it in money markets. You know that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, the brokerages are paying over 4.5% on money markets.
Yeah, yeah, they
And
are.
how are you in a bank at 0.5%? How is that possible? Why would you do that?
Not paying attention, right? You're
Or
just
they don't.
you
They don't pay
completely.
attention, Paul, huh?
It's just
No.
it's just what we've been built to do, right? And so
Yeah.
you
Hey,
know,
I showed Matt. I'll send you the video afterwards. I was catching up. It was a rainy day all day here, so I felt guilty, but I watched a few episodes of 1923, the
You like that
prequel to
one?
Game of Thrones. Well, yeah, they went into town and there's a guy selling, he says we can get electric to your house that you can buy. And they're like, what do we use it for? Well, a washing machine, a
Hmm.
refrigerator, and they're but you can't buy those. You have to rent those. And the people, the old ranchers are like, so we buy the electricity, then we rent the goods that we're going to use the electricity for off you. Well,
Yeah.
what will we do? Well, take a picnic or have free time. And they're like, well, we can't have free time because we're buying all this new stuff from you. So you
Yeah.
actually own us. It was a brilliant little clip.
I
And I
loved
feel like
I loved Yellowstone. I didn't see 1923, but maybe I
it
should.
was that's all great. But Harrison
Yeah.
Ford's the
Oh,
patriarch in this
I would
one.
do that. Okay.
But it's a I think that's what the average American's busy doing, buying crap, looking for status, finding a good job. But at the end of the day, we're all kind of just hamsters on a wheel, right?
We're hamsters on a wheel if you don't figure out a way to get multiple streams
Right.
of income. I'm really proud that we went over that because you can't, unfortunately, there's not enough workers' rights in this country, and it just doesn't make sense to not have something on your own or not have an option. Things can happen. I've been between jobs. It was miserable. I wish I embraced it. Now I have it. I'm probably never going back. You know, I wish more people understood that building a business is an asset and how powerful it is, right? I'm all for investing. I am all for investing, but that takes discipline. You got to do it. The other big myth, Paul, that somehow happened is people think they have to save up 10 grand before they invest it. Meanwhile, man, you get that money in the market, even $5 in the market now. I mean, come on. I mean, it doesn't matter. You got to get used to it,
You have to start like that.
Yep. Yeah.
I have kids opening brokerage accounts in class now, and they're like, "Is $10 a week okay?" I'm like,
Great.
"That's
It's
awesome."
great. That's awesome. Just get
I
And
used
used
once
to
to.
you
it.
become addicted to it, now when you're 25,
Right.
you'll have been doing it. But you don't just start when you're 25.
You know what I told them too? I said, look, you're going to do this reverse budget, and I don't expect you to have emergency fund at your age. But I can tell you when you need it, by 25, you're going to have emergency fund set up if you just stay with it. And then once you have your emergency fund, you get to be more aggressive as an investor. You get to sleep more, right?
Hey, yeah, I'll as we close up in a minute, I'll end
Thank
with this
God.
too.
It's a long podcast. I mean, I spent a lot of energy on this.
I know
Jesus.
you can have
Oh,
tomorrow off.
thank you. I have to work.
Real quick, if kids are going to college, which obviously is really important for this career, that career, whatever knowledge you need, it's the safest you're ever going to be. Matt's heard me talk about this before. You have all your food, your clothing, your shelter, even though you'll be paying for it for years afterwards.
Right.
But you're going to be around all these people and brilliant minds. If there's not a time to start something else to build, that's the time.
Right.
And it's wasted by a lot of people. So I think if you can shift that mindset, that's a good way to start building wealth while you're in that little sanctuary.
Yeah, and you should be, you guys will be proud. I think my kids are in a great area, and they're already building their network. The technology is amazing. They're still keeping up with their friends in New York. I love our message about building up the network and the contacts. Like, I mean, I have there's a lot of people on this phone that I have, and I don't use it, and I don't have to. But if I ever needed to, they would be there for me in a heartbeat. As would I for them. Like, that's amazing
Absolutely.
stuff too. And I
Absolutely.
think we need to redefine, what we think wealth really is. Health is wealth. Money's important, but not it. It's important when you don't have it, and then when you have it, you realize it's not everything. I would love more people to get to that point, right? But somewhere along the line, people just were told they're not capable, or they can't handle it, and it just seemed intimidating, and that's what we're fighting. I don't know, Matt. You should buy some Bitcoin. I mean, you got plenty of money. What's the difference, right? I mean, that's how I would do it.
Everybody's doing it.
I'm very curious about it and
drop your nuts,
interested in it.
drop your nuts, and buy some Bitcoin. Like, get in there. It's a lot of fun. Hang out with the cool kids. I mean, stop being a wimp.
All right, fine, I'm in.
It's time for him to get his varsity letter. It's time for him to get off the JV
step
squad.
up, pull up. Let's go. Come on.
We're calling you to varsity. Let's go.
Oh my Lord.
All right. Well, hey, John, you are always one of our favorites. So,
I love you guys. It's been a lot of fun. I've been so busy.
Keep coming on.
You're like a true friend of the show, like anytime, all the time, kind of, part of the show, John. You really are. I love having you. I love having you.
I appreciate that. It's a lot of fun. Paul, I wrote a very important email. I hope you read it.
Oh yes, I didn't respond yet.
One of my best written emails ever. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it was good. Okay. I'll tell Matt off air. We've got some surprise.
We got some stuff happening. We got some stuff happening, man.
It's happening, good. Matt. And we're ready to bring
Matt
on board.
I mean, how's Subway doing, Matt? I mean, is it working? I mean, it sells no matter what. You have your demographic, you have your client. Your Subway or no? Is that talk about that? Are we allowed to talk about that?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, it's Subway's been booming. It's
still booming.
We've never been, since I've been in it, going on 10 years here. Sales of we're at best they've ever been, and
really,
there's been some tremendous leadership over the last 3 years that has come in. It's seen a lot of changes, but great changes, and it's been a lot of fun. And my wife and I just keep buying more and more of them. So we're heavily into it, and it's been.
So who runs your logistics then? It's just the truck. It's all designed like
it's all it's one of the beautiful things about a franchise. It's I mean, you've got a royalty, and you have some fees, of course, but it doesn't come with zero value. That's for sure. I mean, there's all these. We work with Cisco in our area, who handles all our food, and those deals are negotiated at a level far above
for scale.
For
scale. That's awesome.
And we don't have to get involved in certain things. We have to be good operators.
Okay, fair. But you don't like Jersey Mike's? I mean, do you ever go to Jersey Mike's? Like, do you have a ill will on them or anything?
I don't have ill will on anyone. In fact, I would say that one of the things I've learned in the business is. We're competing more with ourselves than there's competitors out there, but that I see
What's
so
a
much good in that. So we provide, all of us provide better
all right?
products at a better price,
Absolutely.
thanks to the competition. So every one of us can win together. It doesn't mean you don't try to go out there and outdo them, because you do. But
What's a like a 12-footer meatball parm going for these days?
a 12-inch, a foot long
12
meatball
inch
parm,
foot long meatball parm.
you're gonna be probably around $8.79,
Ooh,
I'd
that's a
say.
good price. That's a good
It
price.
is.
Even in
It is.
Chicago?
Well,
I got to be honest, I haven't been to a Subway. We have a whole bunch here, but
That's
time I
your
see it,
job tomorrow.
next time I see a Subway, I'm buying it. I'm sending the picture to
you,
Paul,
you,
get it to
you,
Matt.
yeah,
I'm
you
gonna do
better,
it.
you better, you better.
I'm gonna do it.
You'll like it. We got great people creating great products and
I like the
great
athletes.
marketing.
I mean, I like all the athletes that you guys have in the advertisements. They're good athletes.
We've got a great marketing team, and we've been doing a lot of innovative things in the brand, and it's been, well, the sales are booming, and at the
That's
end of the
awesome.
day,
No, it's good.
that's,
I don't shop there right now. That's why I
yeah,
was asking. I
no,
haven't been,
right. No, it's a legitimate question. I'm glad you
Yeah.
asked it.
So
Yeah.
we could go on all night, but in about
Yeah.
15, 20 episodes from now, we're going to bring you back on, and we're not
For
even
what?
going to have a topic. We're not even going to have a topic, because
Yeah.
I think we'll have even more fun.
Yeah, we don't
Okay.
need a topic with
Yeah.
John. We just talk. It's
Does
great.
John's the
anybody
topic.
does anybody have the score in the basketball game? Can I look it up real quick?
Yeah, look it up. Look it up. Who you rooting for?
I like Jokic. I like Denver.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jimmy Butler too,
Yeah.
but I think they're a little bit too old.
Are
Okay,
the
it's in the
Celtics
third.
still in it?
They're, are you kidding me? It's the Heat and the Nuggets.
No, I
It's
know.
62-60 Miami Heat right now. I'm gonna watch that game.
Whoa.
All right.
All
All
right, we'll
right.
let you go.
Hey, we're East Coast. This is past Matt's bedtime right now.
I know.
Yes. Thanks, Matt. It
Hey.
was a lot of fun, guys. You know,
It was fun, John. Thank you.
Legitimately, I do encourage people to look at Bitcoin as an alternative asset. Hopefully look at it for economics. There are good case uses. You know, you have to zoom out from what's going on right now. It's really ugly on the regulatory side, but they're not going after Bitcoin, in my opinion. And if the US doesn't embrace it, we're going to risk being behind. And I don't think we're that stupid. I hope we're not, actually, but what'll be will be. You know, the world changes. We live in interesting times. We really do.
Great
Thanks,
summary.
John.
Thank you.